I just got a job as a security guard at a hotel. There are strange rules. It's been a tough year, but things were starting to look up after months of job hunting. I finally landed a position as a night security guard at the Evergreen Hotel. The pay wasn't stellar, but it was enough to cover my bills and give me some breathing room. Plus, the night shift meant I could avoid the suffocating crowds and chaotic pace of daytime life. The first thing I noticed when I arrived for my initial training was the sheer size of the hotel. The Evergreen wasn't just a hotel. It was an institution built in the late 1800s. It boasted a grand Victorian facade and a history steeped in opulence and mystery. Despite its age, the hotel had been meticulously maintained, and it looked every bit as luxurious as it must have when it first opened its doors. My supervisor, a grizzled veteran named Tom, greeted me with a curt nod. "Welcome to the Evergreen," he said. "This place has its quirks, but you'll get used to it." Tom's words echoed in my mind as he led me through the labyrinthine corridors, pointing out key areas and emergency exits. He was thorough, and I was grateful for his guidance. But as we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The hotel seemed almost alive. The way the shadows danced in the corners of the hallways, the faint whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls. It was as if the building itself was watching me bawl. Our tour ended at the security office, a small room crammed with monitors and equipment. Tom handed me a binder labeled Rules and Procedures and told me to study it carefully. "There are a few rules here that are different," he said, his tone serious. "Follow them to the letter, and you'll be fine. Ignore them, and well, let's just say you don't want to ignore them." With that ominous warning hanging in the air, Tom left me to familiarize myself with the binder. I opened it and began to read, my curiosity growing with each page. Rule 1: never speak to the guests on the 7th floor. This seemed odd, but perhaps it was to maintain their privacy. I shrugged and moved on. Rule 2: if you hear music coming from room 213, do not investigate. Room 213 was supposed to be unoccupied, but maybe it was some kind of equipment malfunction. I made a mental note to ask Tom about it later. Rule 3: at precisely 3:33 a.m., make sure you are in the lobby. Do not leave until 3:44 a.m. This one made no sense at all, but I figured it was some kind of tradition or superstition. Rule 4: if you see a woman in a red dress in the dining hall after midnight, do not approach her. By now, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. These rules weren't just strange. They were downright eerie. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the Evergreen Hotel than met the eye. My first night on the job started off uneventfully. I made my rounds, checking the locks and ensuring everything was in order. Around midnight, I found myself in the lobby, the binder's rules still fresh in my mind. The hotel was eerily quiet, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. As I walked through the lobby, I heard a faint melody drifting through the air. It was coming from the direction of room 213. I stopped in my tracks, remembering the rule about the music. My instincts screamed at me to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me. I approached the door. Cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. The music was hauntingly beautiful, a lilting tune that seemed to draw me in. I reached for the doorknob, hesitating for a moment. Before turning it, the door swung open, and I found myself staring into an empty room. The music stopped abruptly, leaving me in silence. I quickly shut the door, my mind racing. This place was starting to feel like a bad dream. I forced myself to focus on my duties, trying to shake off the lingering unease. At precisely 3:33, I made my way to the lobby. Just as the binder instructed, I sat down on one of the plush chairs, the silence almost deafening. As the minutes ticked by, I felt a strange sensation, like a weight pressing down on me. The air grew thick, and the temperature dropped noticeably. Just when I thought I couldn't take it any longer, the sensation lifted, and I glanced at the clock. It was 3:44, and I let out a breath. I didn't realize I'd been holding and quickly left the lobby, my mind reeling from the experience. The next few nights were uneventful, and I began to relax a bit. I followed the rules diligently, not wanting to test my luck, but the hotel seemed to have a way of keeping me on edge, always reminding me that something wasn't quite right. One night as I made my rounds, I caught a glimpse of a woman in a red dress standing in the dining hall. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly averted my gaze, remembering the rule about not approaching her. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw her turn and walk towards the kitchen. Against my better judgment, I followed her. I couldn't help it. I needed to know what was going on. I reached the kitchen just in time to see the woman disappear through a door at the back. I hesitated for a moment before pushing it open and stepping inside. The room was dark, and I could barely make out the shape of a figure standing in the corner. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I realized it was the woman in the red dress. She turned to face me, and I gasped. Her eyes were empty voids, dark and soulless. She smiled, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "You shouldn't have followed me," she whispered, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. I stumbled back, panic rising in my chest. I turned and fled, not stopping, until I was safely back in the security office. My heart was pounding, and my mind was racing. What had I just seen? Was it a ghost? A hallucination? Was it a ghost? A hallucination? I didn't have time to dwell on it as the phone rang, startling me. I picked it up, my hands trembling. It was Tom. "You saw her, didn't you?" he said, his voice grim. What was that?" I stammered. "She is one of the hotel's oldest residents," Tom explained. "Some say she's been here since the hotel first opened. We don't know who she is or why she's here, but she's dangerous. That's why we have the rules, to protect ourselves from the things we don't understand." I hung up the phone, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. There was so much I didn't know about the Evergreen Hotel, and I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. But one thing was clear: this job was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Over the next few weeks, I continued to follow the rules, doing my best to keep my encounters with the hotel's strange occurrences to a minimum, but the Evergreen had a way of drawing me in, revealing its secrets piece by piece. One night, as I made my rounds, I noticed a door I hadn't seen before. It was tucked away in a hidden corner of the basement, and it looked ancient with intricate carvings and a heavy iron handle. My curiosity got the better of me, and I reached for the handle, half expecting it to be locked. To my surprise, the door creaked open, revealing a dark staircase leading down into the depths of the hotel. I hesitated for a moment before descending the stairs, my flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grew colder as I went deeper, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. At the bottom of the stairs, I found myself in a large, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with old paintings and dusty furniture, and in the center of the room was a large, ornate mirror. As I approached the mirror, I noticed something strange. My reflection seemed distorted, like I was looking at myself through a foggy window. I reached out to touch the glass, and the moment my fingers made contact, the room around me seemed to shifted. I found myself standing in a grand ballroom, filled with people dressed in elegant, old-fashioned attire. The air was filled with music and laughter, and I felt a sense of déjà vu. It was as if I had stepped back in time. Before I could fully process what was happening, a hand grabbed my shoulder, and I turned to see a man dressed in a sharp black suit. His eyes were dark and piercing, and his grip was uncomfortably tight. "You don't belong here," he said, his voice cold and authoritative. "Leave now before it's too late." I didn't need to be told twice. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the staircase, the world around me seemed to blur, and I found myself back in the dimly lit room, gasping for breath. I fled back to the security office, my mind racing with questions. What had I just experienced? Was it a hallucination, a glimpse into the past? I couldn't be sure, but one thing was certain: the Evergreen Hotel was filled with secrets, and I had only scratched the surface. As I settled into my nightly routine, I couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries the hotel held. The strange rules, the ghostly encounters, the hidden doorways. They were all pieces of a puzzle I was determined to solve. I knew that if I wanted to uncover the truth, I had to be careful and vigilant. One night, I decided to visit the hotel's archives, hoping to find some information about its history and the strange occurrences. The archives were located in the basement, and I had to navigate through a maze of dusty shelves and boxes to find what I was looking for. As I sifted through old documents and photographs, I stumbled upon a journal that belonged to one of the hotel's former owners, a man named Charles Evergreen. The journal was filled with entries detailing his experiences with the supernatural and the strange phenomena that plagued the hotel. One entry in particular caught my attention. It described a secret society that had been using the hotel as a meeting place for their rituals and ceremonies. The society, known as the Order of the Crimson Moon, was said to have dabbled in dark magic and forbidden knowledge. Charles Evergreen had tried to put a stop to their activities, but the society's influence was too strong, and he eventually succumbed to their power. The journal also mentioned a hidden room beneath the hotel, where the society conducted their most secretive rituals. Intrigued, I decided to investigate further. Armed with the journal and a flashlight, I made my way back to the hidden door in the basement. Descending the staircase once again, I followed the journal's instructions to find the hidden room. The air grew colder and thicker with each step, and I could feel the weight of the hotel's dark history pressing down on me. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I found myself standing in front of a large, ornate door. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit by flickering candles, and the walls were lined with ancient tomes and strange artifacts. In the center of the room was a large circular altar covered in symbols and inscriptions that I couldn't decipher yet. As I approached the altar, I felt a sudden chill run down my spine. I turned to see the woman in the red dress standing in the doorway, her soulless eyes fixed on me. "You've gone too far," she whispered, her voice echoing through the room. Before I could react, the candles flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. I could feel a presence closing in on me, and I knew I had to get out of there. I turned and ran, my flashlight barely cutting through the darkness. I stumbled up the staircase, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the top, I glanced back to see the woman in the red dress standing at the bottom, her empty eyes staring up at me. I slammed the door shut and raced back to the security office, my mind reeling from the experience. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The hotel seemed to come alive around me, its walls whispering secrets and shadows lurking in every corner. I knew that I had uncovered something dangerous, and I had to be careful. One night, as I made my rounds, I noticed a figure standing in the lobby. It was Tom, my supervisor. He approached me, his expression grim. "I know what you've been doing," he said. "You've uncovered secrets that were never meant to be found." I tried to explain myself, but he cut me off. "The Order of the Crimson Moon is still active," he said. "They've been watching you, and they're not pleased. You need to leave this place and never come back." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I packed my things and left the hotel that night, my mind filled with unanswered questions and the lingering sense of dread. As I walked away from the Evergreen Hotel, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. I had uncovered a hidden world filled with secrets and dangers that I could never have imagined, but I also knew that some things were better left undiscovered. To this day, I still think about the Evergreen Hotel and the mysteries it holds, the strange rules, the ghostly encounters, the hidden doorways. They're all part of a puzzle that I may never fully understand. But one thing is certain, the Evergreen Hotel is a place where the past and the present intertwine, and its secrets will continue to haunt those who dare to seek them out, those who dare to seek them out.